Hey there, welcome to Village Youth. My name's Justin. I'm one of the youth associates here at Village Church, and I'm also your host for this series that we're in called 4 Big Questions. Over this series, we're hearing from experts as they share their experience and knowledge on a bunch of different topics like addiction, mental health, social media, and justice. Last episode, we heard from my friend Colin as he shared his story about his struggle with addiction and how in Jesus he found healing and restoration. This week, I'm super excited because we're hearing from Dr. Josh Cruz as he unpacks different questions about different topics like mental health, anxiety, and depression. And this is super relevant for so many people, and I think this is going to be really, really helpful for us. But before we jump into that, why don't you turn to the people next to you, or if you're watching this on your own, think about this question, talk to somebody you trust later. When you are feeling sad or worried, how do you handle those emotions?
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Cruz, one of your pastors at Village Church. And I'm a psychologist as well, which basically means that I help people in understanding how they think, feel, and what they do. And then I also help people with their relationships. Today we're going to talk about depression and anxiety. 2 things that make a big difference in how we think, feel, and what we do. Have you heard of depression or anxiety? Do you think you'd be able to explain what it is? Most of us have heard those words, yet we might explain them differently. Depression is feeling sad and losing the joy in things that used to be more, say, fun or exciting for you. It can be sleeping a lot or not sleeping much at all, often pulling away from people. Some people compare it to someone, say, losing their taste or not feeling full after a meal. I mean, imagine that. It's like every time you took a bite into something, it tasted like mashed potatoes, like no matter what you ate. You'd be eating because you need to live, essentially, but it's a lot of work preparing the sandwich, the burger, the noodles. But after eating it, you're left feeling disappointed and for what? I mean, you know it's not going to have any taste and you aren't going to feel full, so you stop putting ketchup or salt or pepper on it. You don't know if you'll enjoy food again. And people may try to help. Well, have you tried putting hot sauce on it or going to McDonald's or eat one of those incredible burritos from Chipotle? I mean, this isn't helpful because, food just tastes like mashed potatoes. I mean, that's a little bit like what depression is. It's feeling bland or low in your thoughts and your feelings. Some words that people use when describing depression are feeling sad, slower, heavy, discouraged, hopeless, blah, really. And then when we look at anxiety, it's what we feel when we're worried, tense, or afraid. Usually about things that are about to happen or which we could think would happen in the future. Think about how it feels when a fire alarm goes off. It's loud, it's unsettling, it's alarming. It's not a nice sound to listen to. Our amygdala's alarm is similar. It sends a rush of energy through our bodies that makes our heart beat faster. Our palms get sweaty and it helps us move quickly to get away from whatever the danger is. It's not a comfortable feeling, but it gets the job done. But sometimes fire alarms go off for no good reason, really. For example, I was toasting a bagel at a hotel a few weeks ago and it set off the fire alarm. It's not like I lit it on fire or there's smoke coming out or anything, but still the fire alarms were set off. So I grabbed a kitchen towel and I started running around waving it near the smoke detectors, just hoping that the alarm would shut off. And thankfully it did. And that alarm is similar to what happens with anxiety in our brain, as it's telling us that there's danger when really there isn't any, or it's not as dangerous as the anxiety is telling us it is. Some words people use to describe anxiety are worried, concerned, scared, helpless, or even nervous. So, when I talk about anxiety and depression, you probably connected with some of those words or experiences. And that doesn't mean that you have depression or high anxiety. We all feel a bit down or depressed sometimes, and we all feel at least a bit anxious at times. But some people feel really depressed or really anxious and they need a lot of support. When we look at how the world views and deals with depression and anxiety, we see a lot of ways to help yourself. Have you ever walked into an Indigo or a bookstore and gone over to that psychology or self-help section? It's pretty big and full of books on how to help yourself feel less depressed, less anxious. There can be some good tips or advice in there. For example, when let's say you're feeling down, it might be helpful to then watch how you talk to yourself. Don't say, I'm always messing up, or I don't do or know anything, because that's just not true. You may mess up a lot, or you may not know a lot, but it isn't always or never. Because, I mean, if it actually was, then it makes sense that you'd feel like super discouraged in that. Or let's say you're reading on anxiety, and you might come across the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. You may have heard of that. It's where you take those deep breaths while paying attention to your 5 different senses. You'd notice 5 things that you see. Might be the screen in front of you, or the color of the floor, the lights, a person near you, or maybe it's the shirt I'm wearing. Then you'd go into, what are 4 things that I can like touch or feel? And it could be even just feeling my hands and the sensation there, or the surface then in front of me. It might be wiggling my toes and feeling like my socks are in my shoes, or it's the weight of my feet then on the ground. And then you'd go into, what are 3 things that I hear? And if you slow it down and get quiet, maybe there's a fan. Maybe you can hear some subtle shifting in the seats. Maybe there's some other noise in the room. And if you kept going, then you'd go through 2 other things, like 2 things that you smell, or 1 thing that you can taste. And this exercise, it can help you slow down and focus on things that don't make you anxious. So then you're not thinking about the things that do. And it's helpful, it really is. But there can also be some unhelpful pieces in there. One thing that a lot of these books tell you to do is to look for the power to heal and get better within yourself. Or only you can fix you. And like I said a minute ago, there are things we can do to help when we feel anxious, when we feel depressed. However, when we look at the Bible, our ultimate source of truth and direction, Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. This is a pretty strong thing to say. And you might be saying to yourself, like, what? I know people who have been healed from cancer, or people who have helped someone else, and they don't believe in Jesus. And you're right, but that doesn't mean that Jesus didn't do the healing or helping. The Bible's it's a book of truth. So when it says that apart from him we can do nothing, it means that whether we give him credit or not, God is the one with the power to heal. Jesus says, come to me, all who are weary. And weary can look like someone who is depressed or anxious. So come to me, all who are weary. And he goes on to say, and he will give us rest for our souls. We need Jesus to help us in our struggles. And one of the ways that Jesus does this is through others. It's through friends, family, leaders. Jesus also says that he is near to the brokenhearted, and nothing can separate us from his love. Jesus loves us. Like, he loves you so much. He is with you. And this is the hope that the Bible brings to us in our struggles, like depression and anxiety. And this is the hope that we can share with others. If you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or struggling with anything, then talk to Jesus about it. Also share with your leaders and your family, as God can show his love and support through them. If you know someone who's struggling, then ask them how they're doing and pray with them. If you listen to someone who's struggling, they're usually happy that you want to care for them by praying for them. You might be nervous to ask, but try it. Most people are thankful. And when you're not with them, pray for them. So pray with them, but when you're not with them, pray for them. You can't take their pain away, and you might want to, or you might feel the pressure, but you can show them love by listening, and at times encouraging them. And if you're feeling heavy by listening to your friend who is struggling, then make sure you have people that you can share the heaviness with. You too aren't meant to carry this on your own. You can't fix them or rescue them, but you can show them love. I mean, if you think of the analogy of it's like a backpack, and someone who's struggling is carrying a backpack full of bricks. It's heavy, and they can get quite tired carrying it. But when they have people that can hold some of the bricks for them, then they can feel supported, feel kind of a little bit lighter. And you might not be able to take all the bricks away, but you can help them find a little rest. You can also encourage them to talk to their family, a leader, older people in their life that can help carry the bricks for them, or maybe even take some bricks away. You can say, oh, this sounds really heavy for you. Have you shared this with anyone else? And if they haven't, then encourage them to. And by doing this, we get to be like Jesus to the world around us. We get to show his love to people so that they don't feel alone in their struggles. We're not meant to live life lonely, especially in our struggles. Go to Jesus if you're struggling. And if you aren't, then help bring Jesus to people you know are struggling by asking how you're doing and pray for them. God, I ask that you would make your presence known to each of the youth and the leaders then here. For those who are struggling, help them to really sense your presence and your love and your comfort as you are near to them and you care. And for those who know people who are struggling, empower each of the youth, each of the leaders to then reach out and ask how they're doing and pray with them. Bring hope and healing. Amen.
That was so helpful. It was great to hear Josh share about depression and anxiety and where Jesus fits into this whole conversation. It was a helpful reminder for me to understand that we were never meant to do this alone, that Jesus wants to help us in our struggles, and one of the primary ways he chooses to help us is by using other people, our friends, our families, or even our leaders. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go into our small groups and talk about this a bit more. But if you're somebody watching this on your own, I would encourage you to think through this more and talk to somebody you trust. Hey, that's all we have for this episode. We will see you guys next time.